Good afternoon, everybody, and a very warm welcome to what is going to be, I think, just such a special Learning Your Lunchtime webinar for the Student Success Coach community. And as those of you that are regular viewers of this 12 o'clock live stream every week will know, we have some fantastic guests and some fantastic topics that we go through every week. And very thrilled to have Robbie with us this afternoon. So Robbie's going to talk about his story and get us all motivated for the weekend. And I guess those of you that are coming from Robbie's audience, I run a student community and really looking for tips and tricks and coaching to help our students be successful. And we'll give Robbie a chance to introduce himself as well just now. So great stuff. If you guys can just let us know where you are from in South Africa or around the world, just pop a note in the chat and let us know how you're doing. And that'll be great for Robbie just to pitch his message this afternoon. And any questions that you've got for Robbie as well. Robbie's got an incredible story, and there's a lot that we can learn from him today. So we're going to ask Robbie also just to talk, into the academic community and people that are studying and got lots of their plate, not only from a work perspective, but they've also taken on degrees and lots of other things in their life, like I did, and I think Robbie has done as well. But really the focus is just to get you guys motivated and focused. We've all got milestones and deadlines and workload that we need to get through, and I think Robbie's got a lot to teach us on this topic. So let's get started. I know Robbie's going to pop me through just a couple of visuals. He's got a couple of incredible pictures, and I'll flash those up just now as we go through the discussion. But maybe, Robbie, over to yourself, just to give us a little bit of an intro to your background, your story, your journey, and importantly, this wonderful new book that you've written. I read your first book, it was very good. Looking forward to reading the second one. And I think we've got a couple of people saying hi. Lungani here from UKZN, Pietermaritzburg campus. But over to you, Robbie. Tell us, who you are, but your background. Thanks, buddy.
Thanks very much, Peter. I met Peter, funny enough, when we were both in Boy Scouts, which is quite funny. But years later, the adventure spark and the love of the outdoors hasn't died. I started off studying graphic design and went into advertising. And then I was working for myself as a freelancer. And in 2006, I had quite a bad climbing accident. Some people asked me, was it some epic cliff in the middle of nowhere? And no, it wasn't. It was at Wits University at the indoor climbing facility there. And that put me in a wheelchair for a year. And that was a massive, massive setback. If you can imagine what that did to me financially, you can't go see clients in a wheelchair. And my entire life was basically put onto hold. Everything I had planned, this whole career path, this whole life path I had planned out was just absolutely put on hold immediately, which was very sad, but it also gave me a chance to change direction. And it's so difficult to say. Falling off that wall and breaking both my ankles in 14 places was probably the best thing that ever happened to me. And turning the worst thing that ever happened to me into the best thing that ever happened to me is my life story. And I've since... I now consult at ad agencies whenever I feel I want to or have the capacity to. But I'm mainly on the speaking circuit, also with book sales. We'll chat more about it in a second. But yeah, that's what I've done. I've turned that into the career path and telling people my story and hopefully inspiring them. And I think we're in a position now more than ever to start thinking about how do we get back not to just where we were, but what's the next step forward? How do we recover stronger? So yeah, that in a nutshell is where it's all from. So yeah.
Robbie, thank you. And I just want to dive in a little bit. I mean, and you were very open in your first book, so I'm sure you'd be willing to share here as well. But, we've had a couple of webinars talking about mental health and, depression and anxiety, and those sort of issues have been quite prevalent in the student community in South Africa, certainly over the last, 18 months as we've been locked down and learning from home and working from home or, living at work. The lines are all blurred, and students have been struggling to get that distinction and get the focus that they need, and then battling with the pressure from parents and communities to get their degrees and make progress, etc. So just to make it real for us, I mean, you sort of very specific about the low point that you had, if I recall, in your mom's ground floor lounge. And so I think, you've kind of sketched out the accident that happened, and that's an incredible story in itself. But then the low point sort of came once all of those troubles landed on you. And I remember, the story that you tell in your book about that late night and the sort of tragic depression led contemplation of your life that followed. So, I mean, just make it real for us so that people can really understand the depths of despair that you went to.
Okay, absolutely. After the accident, my life literally started to unravel one part at a time, personally, financially, everything, to a point where Peter mentions a certain night, the 3rd of November, 2006, where I sat counting painkillers because I was ready to jump off. Suicide was looking like my best option because this was not the life that I'd signed up for. And it became down to one decision. If there were enough tablets to do a proper job of killing me, I would take them all. And as it would turn out, spoiler alert, it didn't, because I'm still here. And that was a very low point. But what was harder were the next few days where I had to change my state of mind, because I was in a state where, with these broken ankles, I couldn't pursue the dreams. Well, I thought I couldn't pursue the dreams that I had ahead of me, and there was no point. I didn't want to heal. And the days and the weeks and the months, and to be honest, the years that followed on, it's all about changing your mindset and doing something small every day to get better, stronger, and tougher, to get back on track and to start living that life that is worth living for. And I changed my mind from I don't want to heal to I want to get better. And it didn't happen overnight. It was a process, and I had to surround myself with the right people. And you learn some stuff, you either talk yourself into it or you talk yourself out of it. And I had to practice that. It was a skill. It was a skill to constantly talk yourself into it. Why am I doing this? I know why I'm doing this. One of my favorite things that's become quite a favorite quote is, whenever you think about giving up, remember why you started in the first place. And that's always a good little refresher to whatever you're going through and whatever you're going for, just keep doing it. Resilience, we're speaking about resilience. It seems to be the buzzword of the day because the whole world is kind of waking up from a coma. But resilience is the one thing that's going to make the difference between those that do and those that gave up halfway. To further the story, I would then make a decision without having a reason to live for, because on that night, I lost my fiance. She walked out and I would never see her again. It was a fight that just went absolutely pear-shaped, and no one could have foreseen that. And I lost the fiance, I'd lost the business, I was up to my eyeballs in debt, and the painkillers were literally the best thing in my life at that point in time. And I had to make a decision to start building. And without a reason to live, I got the chance, it sounds weird and crazy, but I had the chance to invent a reason to live. And so I decided to climb Mount Everest. And
amazing.
It sounds stupid. People go, can you fill that gap in? And it was a painful gap. I mean, it was 927 days. If you can kind of put that, we talk about lockdown day 500 and what are we on? I don't know. I've stopped counting. But 900 days of a decision to force through the pain, go for physio, let them tear the scar tissue off your tendons, and you feel every moment of that, so that you can get into shape for the next operation, which will put you back on your back for the next 6 weeks, and you start the process over and over. And 8 surgeries later, 300 and something hours of physiotherapy, and enough X-rays and scans to make my pee glow in the dark. I made a chance to get to the top of Mount Everest. I mean, I became the 17th South African and the first South African to limp to the top of the highest mountain in the world, which is really amazing. And that's absolute rock bottom to the highest point on earth. And but it didn't end there. Life isn't all about, once the music plays and the titles come up, it's not always a happy story, because literally a year to the day after my summit of Mount Everest, my father was diagnosed with colorectal cancer. and we speak about mental well-being and all of that. I've actually got an exciting announcement coming up now about the next project. But my father was diagnosed, and 4 days later, he actually took his own life because the fear of the future and uncertainty and financial uncertainty were the reasons that death was his best option. And he didn't do it with painkillers. He had access to cyanide. He was a knife maker, and they used cyanide on metal to antique it, to make it look old and blackened. And he drank that, and that was his way out. And so many people, it raises questions, because people often say, oh, well, suicide's the coward's way out. But if you think about it, imagine being in a state of mind where you are so scared, you're willing to hurt yourself so badly that you die from the injury. And that takes a lot of guts. And dealing with that suicide and dealing with that depression and the fear that he must have gone through, that has kind of, it's brought a lot of issues to life. And the people I'm speaking to now that are in lockdown, that are losing jobs, that are waiting for someone to knock on their door to come and repossess cars, real stories, like very close, jobs just coming to an end overnight. I mean, my wife owns a travel agency, and Uncle Cyril came on the TV, and the next day she did not have a business she'd been building for 11 years. And out of no wrongdoing of her own, that was taken away. And people are dealing with massive mental wellness issues at the moment. And we need to create a culture where it's okay to ask for help. You know, it's okay to not be okay. Depression, how's this for a list? Depression, anxiety, isolation, retrenchment, unemployment, fear of the future, what else? You know, death, loss, grief. All of these things are weighing very heavily on all of us. No one is immune. You know, whether you are making 6-7 figures a year, or if you're making $10 a day, these are things that are weighing on us all very heavily. And it's something that we have to address and bring out into the light. And that's what the next project's all about. So it's very exciting.
Robbie, I'm looking forward to hearing that announcement, and I'm grateful that you're willing to make that right here, which is fantastic. So Robbie had a couple of questions. So Cindy Amunga there just asked, you know, wow, did you go for therapy? And she sort of clarified that to say, you know, was it counseling, etc. And I guess in the context, Robbie, of and maybe just to color in that sort of fateful night of yours, where because your legs were broken, you only had the option of the painkillers. You couldn't drag yourself up to the top of a building, for example. And so that decision was almost taken for you by the number of pills. It wasn't like you would have considered other options, because you literally couldn't drag yourself anywhere else because your legs were completely broken. So once you crossed that threshold of, you know, that wasn't an option for you, it was then one foot in front of the other. And I guess in that context of now stepping out of that black, dark moment, you know, what role did counseling and therapy and professionals in mental health play in your recovery? I mean, obviously, yes, a lot of it has to come from you internally, and that's why I think you're just such a powerful example of that. But what role and how did you go about getting help from experts around you?
Okay, Peter. A lot of people, going back to some of the points that you just brought up, a lot of people say, wow, you're 1 in a million that you had that inside of you to keep pushing on. And the honest truth is that there's absolutely nothing different about me to every single person listening to this and the rest of the world. I had to ask for help. And that's one of the toughest things. I mean, people, you have to ask for help, and you have to develop the courage to accept that help. I mean, at one stage in my life, in a wheelchair, I wasn't able to get up a step that's, you know, as high as a pile of 3 books. I needed somebody to help me push my wheelchair up 1 step. I had to ask for people to help me get into bathrooms. I couldn't bath myself for eight weeks of my life. My mother literally bathed me. And at the age of 28, that's on nobody's bucket list by any means. I got help from all over. It's one thing to speak to a good friend and to have somebody who's there to listen, but I cannot stress the importance of speaking to a professional. Go to a counselor, see a psychologist. I was and still am on medication for depression and anxiety because it is a hereditary thing, it's a family thing, and it is just there to help me cope. And I'm not ashamed to speak about it, because there is too much stigma in South Africa and the world about depression and anxiety. It is not a weakness. If I had a dodgy heart, I would take medication for that. I have a chemical imbalance, which, makes my brain behave a certain way, and there's ways to get around that. But regular therapy and speaking to people who are not there to judge you or label you as crazy or weak or anything bad. They're there to kind of just help you untangle a ball of string and put your thoughts out and help you maybe create an action plan moving forward and teach you coping mechanisms. So when X does happen, you know not to freak out and go absolutely nuts. You know how to handle this. And I cannot absolutely stress the importance. And there's a little bit of humility, but it's absolutely worth it. If I think about the life I have today, it's absolutely incredible. The fiance that left never came back, but I did meet the girl of my dreams. I married her, and we have a beautiful daughter. Today, she's less beautiful because she's in a bit of a tornado mood, but it's okay. She's still the most amazing thing that ever happened to me. But I love quotes, and one of the Nepalese quotes that I heard on Everest, and at the time I was kind of like, this doesn't make sense. They said, Mount Everest is so big, you cannot see what lies on the other side of it. And you go, well, yeah, it's a chunk of rock that's 9 times the size of Table Mountain. Of course you can't see. But what I've learned and the amazing life that's opened up to me after climbing Mount Everest is 100 times more than what I could have ever expected before it. And I'm glad there weren't enough tablets in the bottle.
So are we, Robbie. And we've had as I said, a mental health webinar previously with Melissa Ardendorf, and she specializes in mental health for students, and she studied it, and she's helped a lot of the students on this call today in our Student Success Coach Facebook group. And in that session, I also shared about my own battle and journey with depression. And we sort of spoke about the fact that you sort of walk very close to that abyss and you look down into the blackness, and hopefully none of us make an irreversible decision, but if with help and medication you're able to just change course slightly and you walk a little bit back from the edge is always there. That you've become aware of that blackness, you've been through it, and I think so many people have, more people than we're aware, just because, as you say, the stigma has been there, and we're all working hard to change that. And if we can walk in the light and we can walk sufficiently far away from the edge, we can find that sort of spontaneous joy and happiness, that is so often elusive to many people who struggle with that. And I do think, Robbie, as you said, that we've got an impending mental health crisis looming. I think it's probably one of the greatest, possibly worse pandemic than COVID that we've been through now. So the more that we can do about this, the more that we can talk about it, and the more that we can be bold about dealing with it, I think the better we'll be able to deal with it. So Bridget says, I like your attitude. Always encourage my students to use the available support system. You're not alone until you put yourself in the life closet. Now, Robbie, let's talk about Everest. And now I think you're being quite modest, because I think you've climbed the highest mountain on every continent in the world, which, just remind me, hey?
Almost.
Oh, okay. Now there's one left. Is that right? So just talk us through, because you got to Everest and then you had this crazy goal of getting through the other highest mountains around the world, and then built a business, that funded you to go on these trips, to come back and talk about these trips, to speak, to write. So just paint that picture for us.
Okay. It was in 1999 that I ran into the right kind of people. I'd always been, as I said, into the outdoors and hiking, and I had this little idea of climbing Kilimanjaro, the highest point in Africa. And at the time I was 20, 21, and the guy I met, John Black, who's since become my very best friend, he said, I also want to climb Kili, so let's make it happen. And at the time I was saving 5 Rand coins in a mayonnaise jar. We all know how well that works. And it was only until he kind of he kicked it into action, and we put a plan in place, and the wish became a goal. It became an actual goal. And 10 months later, we were, completely out of our league, but we went to Kilimanjaro as well as Mount Kenya and Margarita Peak in Uganda. We didn't summit the other two, but we got Kilimanjaro right. And since then, that's our adventures. We've just tried something bigger every time. And our adventures have taken us to 5 of the 7 summits. So the highest point in South America, which is Aconcagua in Argentina. In Europe, it's Mount Elbrus, which is 5,600 meters high. It's in Russia. That's the worst part of that mountain, is the Russians. But from there, we went to Everest, highest point in the world, and Asia. And also the highest point in Australia is Mount Kosciuszko. And it's not the highest. It's a lot lower than the Drakensberg, actually. And if you have a bad day on that mountain, you don't get back to the coffee shop in time for a cappuccino. But so it's still a continental high. The last two I have left are the highest point in Antarctica and the highest point in North America, which is Denali, or Mount McKinley as it was known. And I've been to McKinley twice now. I've gotten to high camp twice and had to turn around for two different reasons, but it's still on the cards, and I will go back and I will summit it. Just to remind me of that mountain, and my daughter's middle name is McKinley. So yeah. So
haven't you tattooed your back as well, or you wear a T-shirt?
Yes.
Or yeah, okay.
Yeah,
with Everest.
Yeah, I have Mount Everest tattooed across my shoulders.
That's right.
Send
yes.
it to you right now.
Okay,
Yeah.
send me a picture there. And then just while you're doing that, I wanted you to tell the story, and I'm excited to get your announcement, and we'll do that sort of as a bit of an ad break just now. But the other story that I sort of fondly recall from your book, and just to let everybody know as well, that not only did you get into mountain climbing, but you also set your goal of completing an Ironman. And just in the context of doing the Ironman, I think the number of doctors that you went to, I mean, with all the bones broken in your body. And just by the way, Robbie, do you have any broken bones in your body at the moment?
No, nothing.
Okay, fantastic. Just checking. All good. Okay, fantastic.
No,
So I
for
remember.
now we're okay.
I remember in the book, your first book, you said there was a doctor who told you you'd never walk again, let alone even run or climb a mountain or whatever. And then you finished the Ironman, and I can't remember exactly what the story was, but you sent that doctor something. Can you tell us that story?
Absolutely. So I woke up from the 8th surgery, and my mom is talking to said doctor, a Polish guy. I mean, we all know how funny Polish people can be. And he's the guy who told me, you won't run and you won't climb mountains. And Polish guy, can you imagine what the word can't sounds like coming out of his mouth? But so after finishing Everest, I took on the challenge of Ironman. And for those of you who don't know what it is, it's a 3.8K swim in the sea. Then you climb out your wetsuit and jump on a bicycle for 180 kilometers, which is 2 times the 94.7 or the Argus. And then you swap your cycling shoes for running shoes and you run a marathon. Or in my case, I mean, you can limp walk a marathon. But yeah, it's just to keep going. And the winners crossed the line in about 7 hours 45, and about 8 hours after that, I crossed the line, which is, I made the cutoff, which is amazing. It was the longest I'd ever run in my entire life. I mean, all the training going up to that, I'd never, ever done 42 kilometers. But yeah, I got the same medal that the winner does. That's what's so cool about Ironman, is whether you're first or last, your medal says finisher. And I took the medal and I put a little jar of Vaseline in an envelope. And I mailed it off to the doctor who said, you can't run. So yeah, that was my little gift to him, because I think what we have to remember is we need to leave our limitations up to us. Doctors, yes, I have full faith and full gratitude in what they've done for me, but they can't tell me what I'm capable of. I have to decide that. It's not genetic. It's not anything like that. We get to decide what's big enough to turn us around, what's going to be the end and what's just the beginning. Yeah, that's my back there. I had that tattooed on my back 2005, just before 2 years before the accident. And I think if I didn't have a dream to fall back on, I think that was something that was the lighthouse through the storm. I invented a reason to live. I said, it's going to be Everest, because, I mean, what else was it going to be, you get to choose what the goal is. And you set out a map and you move in that direction. Otherwise, it just becomes floundering. You're just grasping at anything. So that tattoo kind of, I tell people my bucket list saved my life. Yeah.
Wonderful. Now, Robbie, it's probably not as extreme an example, but a lot of the students that I speak to, they've got this goal of getting a master's or a PhD or a BSc, and for many people, this is going to be a massively important goal for their lives,
Absolutely.
and they struggle mentally to deal with the struggles of daily life, never mind studying, getting through it, etc. And for many people, the idea of either crossing the stage at Wits, or I've got one student who leaves a blank space on their wall for their certificate. So there's this visualization of the goal that keeps them going. And we always, in our training courses and webinars, we talk about step by step, task by task. You're going to get, and for you, literal step by step up the mountain, right? Um, so, what you're showing here is just this an incredible visualization of that goal that almost saved your life. And I think for many students here, they'll have their own life goals and mountains to climb, hence the title of this webinar. So Robbie, I mean, just advice for people, obviously a lot of students on the call today, that are working towards a sort of academic goal, and maybe attaching quite a lot of value to that as something that they are just putting their heads down and
Yeah.
focusing every day to get there. And just in the context of sort of as being an academic student, and the work and the resilience and the mental tenacity that has to go in there to get that goal.
Yeah.
Your thoughts on that as their own mountain to climb and to conquer?
Yeah, well, first of all, I have to take my hat off to all of them, because like the letters PhD scare the GBs out of me completely. I was never an academic whiz kid. High school, I left second break most days, but you've got to, I think, break it down into little chunks, like you're saying, step by step. You might, no matter what it is, whatever your mountain is, if it's important to you, it's important. You've decided that this is it. I think something that's a very powerful tool, and you don't need to be an artist to get it right, but draw up a picture, even if it's stick men and little squares and triangles. Draw up a picture of what your success looks like, whether it's that day standing on the stage where they move your tassel across from one side to the next, or whatever that is, whether it's the house you're planning to buy when you have the job that this qualification is going to get for you. Whatever that idea of success is, be as specific as possible. Draw the big picture. Once you've got the big picture, you can start to work out exactly what it is. You can work out exactly what is it going to cost you, not just financially, but time. Are you going to have to, what do you have to turn down in order to say yes to this? When I was training for Everest, I was still working a day job. I took a day job, being unable to see clients myself, but I would finish work at 8 o'clock at night and then still schedule a gym session or schedule an hour and a half run, getting home at 11 o'clock at night. But because the mountain was there, and the mountain would never ask if you have a valid excuse. That was what I would tell myself. The mountain's never going to stop and ask if you have an excuse. Put in the training, put in what needs to be done. So yeah, decide what that goal is. Work out what is it going to cost you. You might have to miss out on a lot of things. By saying yes to one thing, you do have to say no to others. Work out what it's going to cost you, and then resolve to pay that price. And when I say resolve, it's a commitment. It's an absolute life decision to make that happen. You've got to prioritize. This is no longer as important because this is. And that's when you start taking those steps towards that singular goal. Because you know what it is, you know why you're doing it, and that makes every day a little bit easier. If you know why you're in it, the how becomes a hell of a lot more simple. Does
Robbie,
that
I love
answer the
what you,
question?
yeah, and I love what you said there about being as specific as possible. I don't know whether you watched Novak Djokovic win Wimbledon this year, but in his little speech at the end, he told the story, and I mean, I was amazed that he actually, when he was a kid in his bedroom, he used to make a little model of that Wimbledon trophy out of tin foil and little bits
Yeah.
of gold. He made, and what you said to me, I mean, was so powerful. Novak Djokovic used to make a little version, or maybe a big version, but a toy version of the Wimbledon trophy when he was 8 or 9 in his bedroom. And fast forward 20 odd years, he's standing on the Wimbledon center court, holding that trophy, being the winner of Wimbledon. It just blew my mind completely. So, what you were talking about, being so specific and describing it, and like the student I mentioned actually leaves a blank space on her wall. And by the way, guys, there's Robbie climbing the mountain, and those pictures there behind Robbie, he actually painted that GNU at the back there. So Robbie has a sideline in artistry as well. So just show us there at the back behind you. Absolutely beautiful.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
Robbie
But
paints that. So
speaking of certificates on walls,
yeah,
that's my Everest certificate, and I mean that certificate you're working towards is worth more than gold, because it's not just money. That money can buy you gold, but sweat and tears and character is what's going to put the certificate on the wall.
Yeah. Now, Robbie, let's have a bit of an ad break, and I want you to make this wonderful announcement and talk about your new book, and then also just answer Cindy's question about how you've built a business. And let's just talk commercially now, about what you have to offer, what you'd like to promote, and what your announcement is, and just link the journey that you've been explaining to us now to what you do commercially to make money, and the offers and promotions that you've got available for everybody today.
Fantastic. Yeah, offers and available. Geez, I would have combed my hair if I knew I was going to do a commercial. But so my commercial model, as I mentioned, I went on the road with my life story. From a wheelchair to Everest is the keynote presentation that I do on the worldwide corporate circuit, which is really nice. I've had chances of speaking in Miami to Macau, England, Ireland, Europe. It's been absolutely fantastic and very well received. I've had the chance. I mean, a guy from Germiston, if you know where Germiston is, it's nowhere special. I promise it really isn't. And I've gotten to speak all over the world to over 60,000 people to tell the story. And people always come back and say, well, thank you for being so raw and authentic. And that is the product I sell. I sell my life story, and I hope that people can get things out of that. I also wrote a book, which took 7 years. These things don't happen overnight. Sorry, Peter, just to be clear, Mind Over Mountain is not a new book. It's a republish of Left Foot, Right Foot. So it's essentially the same story. The rights were purchased by a European company. It's a mental wellness specific publisher called Welbeck. And they purchased it and republished the book. The book is available at Exclusive Books and Reader's Warehouse and other online portals as well, like Take-A-Lot. You can get ebooks and those sorts of things there. But yeah, Exclusives and Reader's Warehouse have got it. So I make most of my income from corporate speaking. Also do big picture thinking coaching with people, talking about drawing up those big pictures. I use my drawing skills. And you talk and I draw, and we draw up what your big picture looks like, and we can start to plan ways forward in that. But that is a secondary thing. On to the exciting announcement. Sorry, I'm just having a look at the comment at the bottom. I wouldn't have made it up the original climbing wall, let alone what you've gone to achieve. You're inspirational. Thank you very much, Tracy. I really appreciate that. The exciting announcement is I'm part of a 3-man team. We are off to climb a mountain in Pakistan. It's the second highest mountain in the world, but it has only seen 5% of the summits that Mount Everest has. It's going to be a South African first. And just like I did on Everest, I'm taking a banner to the top, and there's space on that banner where people can buy blocks, and they can put a personal business, a picture of someone they love, anything they want. That space is theirs. I'm literally selling advertising space on the top of the world. And there's also corporate packages which offer my speaking skills. I've created an employment engagement program, which incorporates talks and constant ongoing interviews like this one, content and updates and photos throughout the trip. So literally, I'll do a keynote presentation to the partners beforehand. Then on the mountain, we'll send them updates and pictures and all sorts of social content, and all under the banner of asking for help, with the end goal being recovering stronger, because the world has very much taken a giant leap backwards with COVID. We're all on the back foot in terms of our personal wellness, our financial wellness, our mental wellness. And I think that's my goal, to start spreading a message of hope that now is the time we can start to rebuild it. We don't know what the new normal is yet. This is not it. I refuse to believe that this is the new normal. We can recover and we can get back to where we were and then start taking some steps forward. And that's what K2 is all about. So yeah, I've built a website where people can go and check it all out. I'll chuck the link in the chat now. And yeah, it's all just, it boils down to something very simple. No matter if you're going for a PhD or writing a book or climbing a mountain or having a baby, anything, it boils down to start where you are, use what you have, and do what you can. It's really that easy. I know I can inspire people by telling my story and walking up a hill with a headache. Yeah, if I can do that and make a difference for the rest of the world, then that's what I've got to do. You know, I speak also about the topics of success and significance. Success was me getting to the top of my hill, which really matters to nobody. I mean, most people know very little about Mount Everest or anything of what it took to get there. Significance was when we were able to use a project so my success could affect others for the better. And I think that's where it all lies. We're now using what we've got to make the world a better place. And yeah, that's what it boils down to. It's that simple. Yeah.
Did I get that right? Start where you are, use what you have, and do what you can.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Let me put in that
So,
link
and
there.
Robbie, just dates-wise, when are you aiming to summit?
The climbing season for K2 starts in mid-June, and we're hoping to summit end of July. We'll be back home first week of August. Yeah, okay. So it's a few months away, but it requires training. When I speak of asking for help, I mean, that's what got me up Everest. I did not have the 700,000 Rand it would take to get to the top of the mountain. You know, I worked in advertising and I come from Germiston. So 700,000 Rand wasn't just going to fall out of the sky for me. So it boils down to asking for help. My first trip, I asked if people would help, and they did. At the end of the day, that 700,000 Rand trip cost me less than 1,000 Rand out of my own pocket. Everything from vitamins to camera equipment to climbing equipment to actual hard costs were all covered by people who just put up their hand and said, I can help you. And ask for help is the campaign now, because I think we all do need to ask for help. If you are feeling depressed and anxious and thoughts of suicide, these are all real. And ask for help, and people will put up their hand to help you, because there is a lot of joy in being able to help others. I'm going to be asking for help because I need constant rehabilitation on my ankles. I'll be asking for mental help. To wrap my head around K2 is going to require a lot. I will be I will be continuing with therapy from psychologists. I will be asking people to help with regards to getting into the best shape of my life. The rehabilitation, getting into shape, and also asking financially. So I'm offering quite a novel opportunity for people to come to the top of the mountain of mountains, K2, the Savage Mountain, for a South African first. You know, no South African has summited that mountain yet, but we're going to give it a bash.
Wow, incredible. Yeah. Robbie, I've just put your website there. I don't know whether the link to the other one that you mentioned is on your Robbie Speaks website, but certainly people can get in touch with you from Robbie Speaks, which is just such a brilliant double meaning, which I can't remember whether you said that was intentional or not, but when I first saw it...
It was about 2 weeks later. I was actually working on the site, and I looked at that and I went, Robbie Speaks, Robbie's Peaks. I was like, I'm a genius. If anyone asks, yes, absolutely. It
double
took me
meaning.
hours.
That's it. That's your story.
In the morning to come up with it. Yeah.
That's your story. Stick to it.
Yeah.
Robbie, I mean, it's been absolutely fantastic chatting to you. And guys, just to also mention the benefits that you get from the Student Success Coach community, I put the link for the YouTube channel there. So please do go and subscribe, and you'll get access to the recording of this webinar, and also the lots of other great videos that we put on the channel. Then just, as Robbie was saying, ask for help. We've got the Student Success Coach Facebook group. So Tracy Ashington, that commented just now, and myself and a couple of others, we've got mentors in that group. It's a growing, vibrant group. And really, just like Robbie has said now, we really advocate for people to come in there and ask for help. Students can find themselves on a very lonely journey. climbing that mountain of the PhD or the master's or the degree or whatever it is that you're trying to achieve. And it's a safe space for people to put themselves out there. And we, often have people just making a post, and lots of others, mentors, experts, if they have a specific area they can help, commenting on that post and helping and connecting people. We've got 6 mentors in that group now already. So if you need regular mentorship, and I strongly advocate for mentorship, and as Robbie has talked about, coaching and counseling and other people that can help you along the journey. And in an academic context, we talk about mentorship, meaning on a regular basis to get people to take the steps that they need to in their degree, the modules that they need to study, the progress that they need to make, the simple steps and actions and tasks that they need to get through on a weekly basis towards that overall goal of getting the degree or climbing the mountain. Robbie, just last couple of anecdotes maybe, and I know you had some hair-raising experiences on Everest or on one of the other couple of other mountains. I can't remember exactly off the top of my head, but maybe just narrate for us one of those hair-raising near-death experiences that you have. If I can remember correctly, it involved a ladder going over a crevice. And you tell a great story about how it's just not advisable to find yourself falling down through a very narrowing wedge in the Earth's surface.
Yes. Peter, you've got an incredible memory. Well done to you. The story is, if you want to get into Camp 1 on Everest, you have to go through the ice fall. And ironically, being at the bottom of the mountain, the ice fall is a minefield of crevasses and giant blocks of ice the size of double-decker buses, the size of buildings, that are constantly in motion as the river of ice shifts down the mountain. And to get across that, the Sherpa go ahead and they put up a series of aluminium ladders. I mean, a normal ladder that you see a painter using, those are put across these gigantic holes. And you walk across those in your climbing boots, which have got crampons, those metal spikes that attach you to the snow. Those are attached, and you have to walk across a ladder, which is an absolute... When was the last time you've ever done that? It's something that can be a complete mind game, and you have to practice. So I use it as a great analogy to finding balance, because I've got quite small feet, and you know what they say about guys with small feet. We have smaller shoes. So being a size 7, most guys' climbing boots would fit, the front bit fits on one rung, and the toes would fit on another rung. And my feet didn't. And so I had to learn to balance in the middle of my foot on one rung as I walked across these ladders. And so I had to learn to balance forwards and backwards as well as side to side. And walking across these crevasses, some of them were the ladders, 4 ladders tied together. And as you walk, the entire thing bounces. And you know that if you fall, it's going to be a long day. And you know that going down into one of these holes it's potentially fatal, because the average rescue on Everest lasts about 3 hours, because after that, they're not looking for people, they're looking for bodies. And crevasses are V-shaped. So you fall until you wedge. And you wedge, and then your body heat melts the ice around you a bit. And so you slide down a little bit more, and then you start to stick as that body heat cools down, and all of your sweat, whatever it is, starts to freeze, and it sticks you there. So when they pull you out, it's not a case of, pulling out a sack of potatoes. It's like scraping burnt scrambled eggs from a pot. And it's something you don't ever want to do. Let me try and just, Peter, I'm going to send you a link to a video of me crossing one of these crevasses just quickly. Let's just see if I can pull up the link. It's definitely worth looking at.
I'll stick it up, and while you're doing that, I've had your website up there, so just been scrolling through that, and I mean, guys can hop on there and follow you and go through the amazing journey that you're on now to get up K2, which I think is absolutely incredible. And I also just wanted to provide the link to our Facebook group, which I'll do in the comments now, so that you guys can get access to the help that you need. And if you're willing to ask for help, there is most definitely help available in that Student Success Coach Facebook group. So do please take example to take advantage of that. So I'm going to stick the video up there, Robbie. And I mean, I think let's give us a bit of a narration there.
Did you see the link
stick it up right now. Yeah, got it now.
There we
So
go.
let's just go and grab that and just give us an idea of what we will be looking at. If I can pop
Sure.
it up now, and it
To give a bit
is,
of context,
yeah,
um, by the time you get to base camp on Everest, you're already at the height of Mount Kilimanjaro, 5,800 meters above sea level. In Joburg, we live at 1,600 meters, to give you a little bit of perspective. You then move up the ice fall, so you're out of breath, you're tired, you're nervous. We move mostly at night and in the very early hours of the morning when the ice fall is at its coldest, so that the ice is most stable. So there you can see, looking down into the crevasse, I had to learn to balance on the middle bar of my crampons, with two hands well, one hand on the safety rail, and the other hand was holding a handy cam. Because in 2009, we didn't have GoPro mounts on our helmets or anything like that. So with a little bit of practice, you do get used to it. I mean, I remember we had 24 ladders to cross from base camp to camp one. So the fifth, sixth ladder, you kind of get a bit of a vibe, but you always remain prudent. You know, you don't ever get too smart. Don't get too big for your boots, and yeah, just be careful. And as you walk across those ladders, I mean, there's more videos also on my YouTube channel. If you just type in my name, it'll come up. But yeah, you can actually hear the aluminium squeaking in the minus 15 degrees. The ice and the aluminium together make this horrible screeching noise. So it's well worth having a look at. Yeah.
Robbie will definitely do that, and I've put all the links there in the chat, and I'll also add them into our Facebook group later,
Thank you.
so that everybody's got all the resources available to them. And we certainly look forward to following your incredible journey as you summit K2
Excellent.
and you spread this message of hope. And I think just bring, the encouragement and the confidence to this idea
Thank
of,
you.
being vulnerable about our mental health, and in and through that, actually getting the help that you need to overcome it. And the more that we can do that, the more we can spread that message, and the more that I think, people like yourself encourage people like us and everybody else on this webinar today, to step up and take charge and take action on a daily, basis, whether it's small steps over a ladder, over a crevasse, left foot, right foot up a mountain, task by task, through your degree. We're here to help and encourage each other. So, guys, do please take advantage of Robbie's resources on his website. Go
For
follow him
sure.
and contribute to him, and support him. And if you benefited from today, really just show that appreciation in contributing to him in any small way possible. And I'm sure that there are lots of options there on his website. And then do please take advantage of the Student Success Coach resources. I've shared the YouTube channel, I've shared the Facebook group. If you pop into the Facebook group, as I said, I'll put all the resources from today in the group for you to take advantage of later. Robbie, there was one last question here that Cindy asked.
Yeah.
So, after climbing the tallest mountains on all the continents, what's next? Have another baby.
Sure. Oh no. I'll leave that up to the professionals, Peter.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
I used to have such a very good answer for that, because the question comes up very often, and I had such a great answer. I used to say I want to finish the 7 summits. I'd like to climb an 8,000 meter peak without oxygen, and then do something really scary like have a child. And as life would have it, my daughter's 3 now, and yeah, who knows what's next. I do need to finish the 7 summits. This K2 project has popped up, and for various reasons, it's now is the time to do it. So it has taken priority over finishing the 7 summits. But I'm not entirely clear of the plan going forward, but I do know that it involves taking my daughter to the top of Kilimanjaro. When I speak to her, she says she wants to come with me to the top of Everest. If that was her dream when she's old enough, then absolutely we'll make that happen too. But yeah, we've still got a couple of crazy ideas up our sleeves, and yeah, it's not always just about the tallest mountains. It's not about going higher or anything more. It's just about going for us and just living a life of adventure, and to inspire yourself and people around you. Yeah, I mean, we live on a big planet. I want to try and see as much of it as possible. Yeah.
Robbie, thank you. You've given us just such incredible insights today. And if I could really just leave everybody with one thought, is to go and get Robbie's book. It is just the one book. It's been repackaged and republished now, which is fantastic. So I thought I was going to be getting another book from Robbie and going through the next phase of his journey, but I've read that book and I cried, I laughed, I was inspired. And I remember getting to the end of it. I was sitting by my pool, and I think I sent you like a Facebook message afterwards. And I can't remember what I
Yeah,
said, but I just said, incredible, Robbie. Thank you for that. So, guys, I mean, this is a South African success story of somebody who's overcome a lot, and he's very modest about it. And he's given us real and practical insights so that you can take the steps every day that you need to climb your mountain. So, support Robbie, get his book, go through it, be inspired. And, Robbie, we want to say thank you for being with us today. Good luck, and we'll certainly follow your journey.
Great. Peter, one last thing. If anybody wants to jump on my website, if you hit the subscribe button, it'll give me your email address, and then I'll get my daughter to choose from everyone who's subscribed from today onwards to choose, and I'll send you a copy of the book. I'll get your name, I'll sign it, and I'll send it off to you, just as a sign of appreciation for the stuff that you guys are doing.
No, Robbie, thank you for that. So just to be clear, when they subscribe, how will you know they from today? If they just put in their maybe brackets Peter or whatever, you'll be able to pick it up?
Yeah, you can, but on my side, I will be able to see from the date. So from now on, I'll be able to see it in the next couple of, the next 48 hours or so. So yeah,
fantastic.
my back.
So go hit robbyspeaks.com, subscribe there, and then Robbie's going to ship out maybe a book or so to somebody that he selects from you guys. So there's a real opportunity there to get one of his books. So I think that'll be very special. Robbie, thank you so much. We wish you absolutely everything of the best with your expedition. We look forward to following that success, and we look forward to having you back on after you've come back safely and you've got lots of great stories to tell us and inspire us about that phase of your journey.
Brilliant. Thank you, Peter, and I really appreciate this opportunity.
Thank you, Robbie. Appreciate it. Cheers, everybody. See you in the Facebook group. Ciao, ciao. Bye-bye.
Bye.